stand and or be reminded again what is the temple of God. And most of us, sometimes, we just took it or take it lightly or take it for granted that the very temple of God is so important to God. So, you see, God's temple, what is it supposed to be? God's temple. Is it for people that will just come and have a conference or a meeting or a place where we will be able to get along together and have a beautiful harmony and enjoy the, rapport? So, what is it really? It is supposed to be a place where we go to honor God. This is not for socializing. This is a place where we are going to focus in giving God the glory. It is supposed to be a place where men and women escape the tedium of the daily grind in life. It is supposed to be a place where our focus on the eternal gets us away from our self-love and our hustles attempt to compete in this rat race life. So, how can we be able to be relieved from this competition? So, meaning to say, we come here to unwind from the Word and to begin to ask the Lord for help. Where He is the willing listener. So, when we are going to unload our burdens, He is here. And this is why we need to know where we stand. How do we honor Him? Do we honor Him by just worshiping through our mouth and not really building our relationship with Him? And how can we build our relationship with Him if we are not totally engrossed in seeking His face, or we are not willing to know who He is and to inquire in His temple about the power of God and about what He is going to intend for our life to become, or how are we going to know who we are in Him? Because our life has the purpose why He created us. He did not allow us to be born for us just to fill the space, to, fill the vacuum, or we are just coming to this place because accidentally we were born. You see, in God's time, or in God's wisdom, if you're going to really study the way He created the whole world, the whole system, there is no accident that happens. So, meaning to say, He allowed you to be born in this generation or in the ancient generation, because everything was already being recorded in heaven. Before the world began, He already planned it out. There was already a blueprint in heaven when He intended for this earth to be created in order for Him to bring people for Himself, so that these people are not just created angels. These people will be able to glorify Him, will be able to have a fellowship with Him, because remember, we are not spirit being. We are human being, created in the very image of God. So there is always a purpose, because God can always create angels, and He uses angels as messengers, as spirit being. But He purposely created all of us in a manner where He will be able to talk to us freely, and He will be able to enjoy our fellowship with Him. Because we are a unique being that God created. So, remember this. We are here to honor God. He expects us to honor Him. The problem is, we don't understand why we exist. Again, let's read. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16 to 17. Who wants to read this? Who wants
Praise
to
the
read?
Lord. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are.
Amen. So it says, know ye not that we are the temple of God? We, who are the created being, a special creation by God. He created us that the whole being will become the temple of God. And you see, temple is where we offer worship. So, God expects a temple that is clean, that is holy. A temple that is not being filled by garbage. Because He intended for all of us to become His temple. So in other words, we are not supposed to allow ourselves to be immersed in sin. So it says, know ye not that you are a temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. The Spirit of God. So how can God dwells in us or stay inside of us if we have not allowed ourselves to be a clean vessel? We have not prepared our heart, mind, soul, and spirit to be able to invite God to dwell in us. We are not asking God, Lord, this is your apartment. No, He is going to dwell. He is going to stay. This is why we are the temple of God. We're not supposed to have, Lord, you have a room in my heart. So you are going to rent, or you are going to have a room. No. He owns all of you, all of me. And this is why it says in verse 17, if any man defile the temple of God or the dwelling place of God, him shall God destroy. This is the reason why there are people who perish because they don't honor God. They thought that all the while, I was created because this is my life, I own my life, and whatever I want and whatever I decide, it's me. And I'm the one who called the shots. But they did not even anticipated that there will be a time that our life will expire. That our life will be called and be judged in the latter days. It is because we have not prepared, and we have not studied, and we have not researched, and we have not seek God do you know that each and every person here are responsible to know what supposedly his life to become? You were not created by God for the purpose of just eating and drinking and be merry and enjoy life and then you die. And sometimes people, because they don't understand their life, that they thought that, oh, my life is so miserable, then what I'm going to do is just take my life. And I'm going to, kill myself. Because I own my life and I don't want to see the misery that is in this world. We don't have the right. Because God owns us. And this is why when He says, we are the temple of God, then we see to it that we are the temple of God. Now, as a temple of God, He expects us to become priests. We are royal priesthood, a holy nation. That is in Peter, 1 Peter. So, as a holy nation, as a priest of God, then He expects us to be able to present our body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is our reasonable service. Now, if we are going to present ourselves to God, because we are the temple of God, are we not going to seek what will make God happy? Are we not going to ask God, Lord, what will make you happy? Number one, He wants a clean vessel. He wants a vessel that is true. He wants a vessel that do not lie. He wants a vessel that will perfectly love God with all his heart. So, if we are talking about loving God with all our heart, then, if we says that, oh Lord, I have already made myself to be yours, I have already dedicated my life to be yours, then, the power of God will take over. The power of God will make a change from inside our heart, and that will be able to be seen outside. Because you cannot say that, Lord, I am changed inside, but you can still see my old self outside. It cannot be. When you are a new creature, you are no longer your old life. You are new. That means you studied from the things that God is teaching you who you are supposedly. That this is why there is a renewed spirit in you. So when everything is renewed, you are no longer the same person. You are no longer tardy. You are no longer a crybaby. You are no longer that person who doesn't want to listen to the instructions of God. You become obedient to the very words of God. And you are no longer, cutting classes. Because that is, many of us before, when we were still studying, we cut class. We escape. And sometimes we go over the windows from the school if it's open. Or jump over the fence. You see, when our parent will ask, oh, where did you came from? Oh, from school. We are just portraying that we are good student. We are good son or daughter. But actually, we are stubborn. We are not giving our parents what they intended for us to become. So, it is also the same way that God wanted us to become as a true worshiper, a true faithful followers of God. Now, if we say that we are faithful, how can we show to God? By just the ordinary thing that we apply in our life. Like what? Okay. The Lord wanted us to be perfected, even by our small contribution. How? By dressing up for the Lord. Dressing up for the Lord. Because God is holy, then we need to present our life to Him as holy. Will He be happy if we are going to dress up in a discotheque attire? Is God wanted His people, His children to come to Him and worship Him in a discotheque attire? Or in a way that we are no longer making our life to become presentable to Him, holy? Because most of the time, we want our life, to become fashionable. And so, we come to church with a, mini skirt. Or some of us uses hot pants. And then we say, oh, I am a born again. Oh, I worship the Lord with all my heart. Remember, you want to glorify God, you want to present God yourself, then seek what is pleasing to Him. This is the reason why, you see, if you go to parties, or if you go to other places, dress up, why don't you dress up for God?
Amen.
Why don't you dress up for God? You are not dressing up for me. You are not dressing up for this sanctuary. You are dressing up for God. Because you are committed to Him that you are going to glorify Him with all your heart. So it is so important for all of us to understand. As a priest, because all of us becomes priest, a holy nation, a royal priesthood. Royal. Royal is kingly. So remember this. The Lord wanted us to wear also white. This is why we require all of us to wear white. Why? Because white is symbol of purity. White is a symbol of, clean and sanctified or separated. So don't ask question, why do we need to wear white? It is for the glory of God. And remember, the Lord had already given us a long time ago in 1970 when He began to speak to the group in the Holy Place Church that He said, I wanted you to wear white. Why? Because that is the symbol of who I am going to receive. And if you are going to even check in Revelation chapter 7, will you please read? Revelation. Verse 9. Please read.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations, and kindreds and peoples, and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and psalms in their hands.
Amen. So it says, after this, what is after this? The 144,000, which are the people of Israelites that are being what? That are being gathered by the angels of God in the last days. After these 144,000, the 12 tribes of Israel, are those people whom God wanted to gather. And we belong to this group. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, meaning to say, God is the one that allowed His children that was gathered to wear white, because that is the symbol of purity. Because He said, I do not want heaven to be polluted. I do not want that people will come to heaven with their sin. So nobody can go up there. So one of these requirements is that if you cannot do it here on earth, how much more in the spiritual realm? Well, you wanted to end up in glorifying God. These are just a simple instruction. So the Lord is teaching us obedience. The Lord is teaching us that, in order for us to know and understand the ways of God, then let's just know what is in the heart of God. He said, you want to be saved? You want to have salvation? Yes, we want to have salvation. Then, follow my instructions. And the instructions of God, He did not say that go up to Mount Everest in order for you to be able to get saved. He did not say go up to Mount Everest. He said that I want you to separate yourself from this world. So meaning to say, you are going to be sanctified. You are going to separate yourself from the pollution of this world. And one of these is just like He is going to try us in our obedience by wearing white. So, you see, if we cannot follow that instruction, that means we are stubborn. How much more if He is going to require us to do something that is so hard compared to the things that He said, just wear white. That's simple. Is it hard? It depends to the perception of a man. If he wants to become, knowledgeable and he wants to reason out with God, how can you reason out with God? When the Lord said, I was born on October 3rd and I died in March 28th, what can we do? We have to follow His instructions. And He said, I want the women to have long hair. What can we do? And I do not want to have for the women to wear pants. What can we do? You see, you are not going to please me. You are not going to please this church. You are going to please God. Because in following these instructions of God, you don't even know how God blesses you. You see, like what happened. Some of us believe by offering our labor, our, help in blessing this church through October 3rd. We believe that God releases blessings. And it happened for so many years.